Yeah, this is one company that I am very good at talking about, guys. I'm very well versed in Lululemon, have done a lot of ground research, let me tell you.
There's kind of a consistent theme among the office today about Lululemon, and it's kind of polarizing in terms of men and women who like because women are, the young ladies in our office are like 100% for Lululemon, and now I can see why this stock is so popular.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are some competitors coming up against them, but as far as publicly traded companies, I would say that Lululemon is pretty much stands alone as far as what they do individually. You know, you have your Nikes and whatnot, but as far as being a standalone brand, I think that Lululemon is sort of the only one in the ballgame right now. And so, Landon, I'm curious as to what your LikeFolio data is telling you about the strength of Lululemon as a brand ahead of their earnings.
Yeah, so I was nominated by LikeFolio to come on today because I am a huge Lulu fan. I love it. I'm wearing it right now. I'm one of the men that actually like Lulu. Very comfortable stuff. So I'm a little conflicted with my call today, but I'll get into that. So we've got Lululemon purchase intent data here, and you can see that it's somewhat seasonal in the spring and fall. So we're coming off of the end of summer here, so just getting going into the fall season. It's starting to pick up. And we're seeing really good growth, obviously, for this company over several years, but it's not really matching what the stock has done. And with the stock up about 187 today, it's up with the markets just a little bit off of its highs back in July. It's actually looking like I hate to say this, it may be a little bit overbought. We see really strong data coming out of this company, but we think that the expectations may be too high on it. And so we're a little bit cautious going into this earnings release.
Landon, first thing, is it okay for you and I to be talking about Lululemon? Do we have to ask HR or anything before we talk about this? I feel like we're talking about women's products here, but that being said, I own 2 pairs of Lululemon shorts, a gift from my very lovely daughter, Alex, who bought them for me for Christmas. So I have Lululemon. I've just never personally bought any Lululemon. They've been bought for me. But that being said, you've got a divergence here, right? Similar to the divergence we talked about yesterday with Megan, where it said it's positive, but the stock it's diverting in terms of it's not as positive as the stock is, correct?
Right. So normally when an ideal situation with LikeFolio is the purchase intent data is going one way really strong and the stock's going the other. That's not what's happening here. We've got strong purchase intent data, but it's just not nearly as strong as the stock. And again, it pains me to say I'm a big fan of the company, big fan of their products, but it's a little bit off, basically flat year over year. I think the street's expecting quite a lot of growth year over year, and with the stock at all-time highs or close to all-time highs here, I think you can see why. So that's where we're looking at as far as purchase intent. Now, the other side of the story is consumer happiness and perception of quality. And so when we look at how happy people are when they're talking about Lulu, it's very high. It's about 76%, which is right there with Under Armour and beating Nike and Adidas handily. That's really important. And of course, also part of that is the perception of very high quality products, which has been on the increase with Lululemon. So people love their product because it is so high quality. It fits well, it looks great. And so they have a very strong customer base, very strong, as I'm sure you guys can tell in the office.
So one common theme that I found when I was combing through Twitter to find tweets to pull about Lululemon was that a lot of people were comparing Lulu to a company like Ulta, who, as we saw last week, their earnings did not, or they moved to the downside very heavily after their earnings. And they're both full price, off mall retailers, and I guess that sphere lately hasn't been doing too well. And this tweet sort of touches on that. This tweet from the New Gecko says, Lulu reports earnings next week, and of course this was written last week, looking to purchase some put options in it. I have a feeling that after the disaster of Ulta, looks like the consumers are spending less. And while we just saw last week also saw really positive data come out of consumer confidence and consumer spending, I sort of get the other sentiment that this Twitter user is saying, because I actually was looking at the comparison between both companies on a price chart. I think we have that back there as well. And it shows that over the past year, Lulu and Ulta sort of have been mirroring each other's movements after their earnings reports, which, Landon, like you're saying, might mean that it's a little too overbought, and maybe we'll see that big dramatic dip in Lulu like we saw in Ulta?
I think it's certainly possible. I think that, this is a rich market right now, and it's very attractive to grab these consumers, and they're getting competition from many angles at lower price points. Lulu's very expensive product. It's a high quality product, but it's not going to last forever when people are going to continue to take shots at it with their competition. So I think it's possible that they could sell off on a decent report because expectations are so high, and we are expecting basically a decent report. We're not expecting a blowout, which I think the market is expecting. So this is not a classic divergence where we're ringing alarm bells and we're saying, buy out of the money puts or anything like that, but we just think it could be a little bit overbought here.
Yeah, and Lynn, I think that's important to underscore too, because it's not an indictment on Lululemon as a company. Full disclosure, I'm also a fan of Lululemon too, so I'll throw my name in the hat there. But when you're looking at this and when you look at Ulta's report, it kind of shows what could potentially happen though if there's a major miss. So it's hard to perfectly project that, but it shows what happens when companies perform so well for so long and then surprise the market to the downside. But when you're looking at Lululemon from your guys' perspective here, and you're looking at the stock price being a little bit maybe overbought, you've said in the past that kind of makes you guys a little bit more cautious in your calls.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a disaster call by any means. I just like Lulu around 170, 175 a lot more than I do it at 187. And I think it's got about a $17 market maker move priced in, about 9 or 10%. I wouldn't be surprised if we got some or all of that a little bit to the downside. So if we do get that, I'm probably a buyer at around 170 or so. But at 186, 187, I'm very cautious.
All right, I have another tweet for y'all today. And our next tweet says, Lulu looks intriguing as they are trying to grow their menswear, footwear, and building their yoga, meditation, chill out stores. Lots of avenues to increase growth. However, their margins will be squeezed with these new avenues. And we actually just got in Lincoln Park and here in Chicago, one of these big mega stores too landed, and they're really impressive. They have meditation rooms, exercise studios, not just for yoga anymore, food options, and as well as their retail side, right? But Lululemon is also trying to expand on its loyalty program as well, called Practices, I believe, and it's already being tested in 3 North American cities. So they're doing a lot. Do you see that maybe that this consumer sentiment, maybe these the data points that you're pulling could go higher based on all of these new movements from the company?
Right. So Lulu is very innovative. Yeah, you're talking about that new 25,000 square foot store in Chicago, which I can't wait to see. That's amazing. But they've also got pop-up stores that they're trying out where they're just basically finding any open space, college campuses outside, or just a temporary space where they basically are testing the market and making money while they do it. And they're very innovative, obviously. It's a great company, and I think that they're aware of the fact that they've got a lot of competition coming in. They've got very high price points. They've got the lead with the market sentiment and the quality of the products, but they've got to fend off the competition. I think that right now they may be just a little bit overpriced.
The question for this company, Landon, really, don't you think, is growth? Because we have compared Nike and Lululemon, and obviously that's an easy thing to talk about, but you really can't compare these in terms of market cap size. Nike has 1.5 billion outstanding shares. Lululemon has 130 million. That's less than a tenth of the size of Nike in terms of market cap. So you're talking about really, teardrops and tidal waves in terms of the size of these companies. So I think growth is going to be the differentiator for these earnings. If they can still talk about growth and the fact that they're growing, that will be something that makes the stock move.
And the street is expecting Lululemon to report comp sales, so same-store sales of 12.2%, and the revenue growth estimate is also 17%. So it seems like
sales 12.2.
Yeah.
That's growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Landon, they've met these numbers in the past too. There's nothing necessarily to say that they can't continue to do that. And but at some point, you would expect, as this company becomes more and more mature, that their growth numbers maybe would come back down a little bit. But you talked about their innovation. You talked about their ability to kind of see where the trends are going and position themselves well. Do you think, and that's kind of what Evelyn asked, but when you're looking at this perception of high quality, how much of that is around the culture that Lululemon's built?
I think that's huge. I mean, yoga is taking off. It has been taking off for 10 years now, and I think Lulu's kind of been riding that trend. And so it's got a huge culture around it. People love it. And what's really interesting is, we talked about this a little while ago, is that of course, they've dominated with women, but they are really making strides with men. And I think that's really important. Obviously, that's half the market. And you've got, wives buying their husband things like that, or daughters, like in Kevin's case, and buying their father's things. And so I think that as that grows, I think that could be their biggest potential for growth, because I believe they're dominating when it comes to women. And now they're starting to take hold with men as well.
And what they've done is they have chiseled out their spot as the highest price, highest quality, right? Everyone else is lower and less quality. That they've got their mantle that they have, and I think that's important, because clearly people will pay for the highest quality even if it's the most expensive.
Yeah, and that's the piece that we may be missing this is, there's this perception of high quality, but there's certainly a high price tag on a lot of these items that they're selling too, which lead to those higher margins. But Landon, kind of to sum it all up then, it sounds like, as you said, a little bit overbought from the stock standpoint, but any type of a pullback on maybe inline numbers, you guys would like that as potentially as an opportunity to get involved with Lulu.
I think so. I'm going to be long at 170, hopefully tomorrow. That's my goal, because I've got a bearish play going on this one. I think it's a little bit overbought, but if it pulls back hardly at all, 5 or 10%, I'm going to be long on this one long term, because just the data looks so strong long term. It's just the price just got a little bit ahead of it.